Good morning, everyone. My name is David Healy. I work in the Office of Public Works and I'm a member of the Project Managers Network subgroup. I'm delighted on behalf of the OPS 2020 Action 10 team to welcome you all to today's conference, which is going to focus on the new Enterprise Project Portfolio Management Framework, along with the new project management training opportunities being launched as part of the Gen 2 suite of courses being provided by OneLearning. So I'm joined today by three presenters, Paula Flanagan from the Office of the Government's Chief Information Officer, Mark Turner from Microfocus, and Siobhan Gaffey from OneLearning. Paula and Mark will share more information on the new EPPM software, which will be available to access through a single supplier framework via the Office of Government Procurement. And then Siobhan will demonstrate project management at work and share how a project management approach was taken to conduct a learning needs analysis for the development of the new Gen 2 courses available via OneLearning. So we've asked our presenters to stick to around 20 minutes per presentation because we'd like to have as much panel discussion as possible after presentations. And I suppose this is where you come in as the audience. If during the course of the event you have a question that you'd like to put to the panel, please include it in the Q&A on your screen and we'll try to get to them at the end of today's session. If there's any questions that we're not able to resolve today, we'll pass them on to the presenters and we'll try to get them resolved afterwards. So before we kick things off, I'd like to congratulate my colleagues in the Department of Defence and the Defence Forces on their recent success at the Civil Service Excellence and Innovation Awards. In the Excellence in People Skills and Organisation Development category, they were successful for their entry embedding programme and project management. So this marks the culmination of a series of initiatives over the last 4 years and really endorses the work that's been done in the space. So a virtual bula bus more to, and very well done to Kevin Dowling and Eilish Keating, and indeed Bridgetta Doherty, who played a pivotal role previously, along with the wider Action 10 team. So back to today's proceedings, I'm now going to hand over to Paula Flanagan.
Good morning, everybody. It's good to be back. And after several years in the challenging arena of public procurement, I'm delighted to say we finally signed an EPPM SaaS framework agreement. So this morning, if you just click onto the agenda on. So this morning, we've relatively short time, so I'm just going to give you a quick overview on the framework agreement. In the presentation pack you'll get, there's a lot more slides on the framework agreement itself. And we're going to spend most of our time just giving you a 15-minute or so taster on the demo itself. And we've been back for questions in the panel discussion after the presentations. So just the EPPS SaaS framework is a national framework, so that's available to all public service bodies. It's a single supplier contract, and it's a direct drawdown framework. It is a software as a service via public cloud. So this is the government's first public cloud framework agreement. And as part of the framework, you can also avail of deployment services, training services, pre-sales, and support services. We signed the framework agreement with Microfocus. So next slide. Microfocus. And the Microfocus application is called PPM. The application itself is very rich in functionality and covers a wide range of different areas, all from demand management through to portfolio management, integration with agile tools, and we do have some pre-recorded demos. Next slide. Pre-recorded demos that you can access on the different areas of functionality simply by clicking on the link. If there are any other demos you'd like us to arrange, or if you want to see some more details on some of the areas, please let me know and we'll arrange those with Microfocus. So as I mentioned earlier, we're going to spend most of our time this morning giving you a taster demo on PPM, and I'm going to hand over to Mark Turner in Microfocus to lead us through that. And as I said, we'll be back in the panel discussion to answer any questions you may have on the framework.
Thank you very much indeed, Paula. Good morning, everybody. Mark here from the Microfocus team. So I've got the fantastic job of just taking you through PPM this morning and giving you basically a 15-minute taster into the capabilities within what is a very mature product within this marketplace. So I'm going to use my demo system It's an out-of-the-box version of PPM, just has lots of different data in it, so you can see lots of the different visualizations and graphical representations as we go through the tool. Now, as you saw on the frameworks, the overview slide that Paula just presented there, PPM, which is Project Portfolio Management, is very much a top-down perspective from portfolio all the way down to individual task in a project plan and how much time one resource spent on one task in one plan, and aggregating all that data, or the ability to aggregate all of that data back up to the top portfolio levels within the tool. So let me just give you a quick view into some of these. So I'm on a home page, a landing page for a particular user here, and you
Mark,
can
you
lead.
just want to
Sorry,
check
we can't
share.
see
Yep.
the demo.
Oh, can you not see? I
No.
do apologize. Let me try that again. I press the share. Does that work?
Yeah, now we're
Yes.
good. We're good now, Mark.
Oh, I do apologize. I didn't seem to have gone through. So I'm on a home page here for one of my particular users within the system, and from here they have portlets of information, graphical views or textual views about projects or resources or business objectives, and the menu item along the top of the screen, pertinent to the type of user I am, allows me to go and open things, search things, create things, or for the benefit of today, I can use the My Links, which is my favorites page, essentially, to go and look at 2 or 3 of my key favorite areas within the tool to give you the taster demo. So I'm going to start at the top level, the portfolio level. And having opened up my project portfolio for my Advantage Inc. company, which is my mystical organization, this is going to give me a visualization of everything that this company is doing. It is broken down by business units down the left-hand side. So I have a hierarchy of sub-portfolios available to me. And if I pick on any of these items within the view and visualization, the graphics over on the right-hand side of the screen will change. I'll now look at the view of the supply chain business unit portfolio, its adherence to strategy, where it's spending its money, where the pieces of work in that portfolio align to value and risk, what the overall budget of that portfolio might be. And if I pick on any of these areas, any of the nested sub areas, the representations will change dynamically to support the selection I have on the left-hand side of the screen. And from here, you can see as I scroll down that for the overall portfolio for Advantage Inc., I can see how much benefit I'm driving back from each strategy. I can see where I'm spending my money, where I'm forecasting the costs for each strategic theme, the alignment of value to risk for all of the pieces of work, the ability to hover over any of the bubbles in the bubble chart. And if I wish to drill down onto that data, I'm going to have a look at what sits behind every single item in the display, and also look at the overall financial summary, maybe on a monthly basis, where I can see the actual cost or the planned cost against the forecast cost and how much money has been approved for this portfolio of work. But along the top of the screen, I have a series of tabs available to me. And if I go and have a look at maybe the backlog tab here, this is going to give me a visual representation of all of the pieces of work within this portfolio. Now I've got them displayed on a time perspective here. I can use the radio buttons on the right-hand side of the screen to put them into a Kanban board or a list perspective should I wish to do so. But I like the strategic view. It gives me a good visualization of all of the pieces of work I'm doing and when they're going to start and stop, and the key milestones and milestones that may have been missed or overlooked at this moment in time. And also for this portfolio, I could go and have a look at the strategy associated to it. I could understand the strategic themes that we're doing. And if I highlight any of the strategic themes, it will show me all of the individual business goals that are supporting each of those strategic themes. And every piece of work in the system can be aligned to business goals, KPIs, and a strategic theme, so we can understand where are we spending our money? Where are we putting our money and our resources in accordance to the strategies that are associated to our portfolio of work that we have selected on the left-hand side of the screen? The financials tab allows me to see for the entire portfolio every single cost and every single benefit associated to this portfolio of work, which projects they're coming from, and the type of benefit associated to them. And if I go back to the backlog area, I will then also have the ability to take any single item from this visualization. Let's pick, for example, the marketing web portal here. It's a project. I said you have the ability to highlight any item and drill into the detail behind. Well, if I'm interested in that project of work, I can click on that particular link and dive into the project overview page. And from here, I have a visualization of the project manager's view of the world. This is everything about the marketing web portal. I can see the high-level view of the status of this piece of work. RAG status is associated to the schedule, to the money, and to the risks and issues against this particular piece of work, and gives me an overrided, calculated health of where this project currently sits in the eyes of the organization. Now, of course, as a project manager, opposed to just my status information, I want to have the ability to get to my work plan. And from here, PPM provides a 100% browser-based full project planning capability. If I just minimize that down so we can see there's my Gantt chart, the critical path in orange. It's only a small Gantt chart that as you can see there, but I have full project planning capability, and I have in-depth information behind every single task in that plan, should I wish to get down to that micro level of associated information. But if I use my breadcrumb trail here along the top of the screen, it shows me every screen I've visited in recent times. I can quickly and easily navigate to a preceding screen or 2 or 3 steps up the chain, but I can come back to my project overview, and apart from the work plan on here, I have my tabs of information. Let's pick one of these out and have a look at, as an example, the costs of this particular project. And from here, I can see my plan versus actual costs split by CapEx and OpEx as my breakdowns on the right-hand side of the screen. And if I want to get into more detail, maybe go and have a look at the resource costs. I can understand the finances around what I'm forecasting for my resources for the different roles in the project plan. And I can also have a look at which resources have been allocated to those tasks within the plan and how much are those individual resources costing me. I can look at budget overruns, budget under costs, so I can understand from a financial perspective everything going on within this particular piece of work. And I have full breakdown of resource information and testing data and external references to documents and document management systems. But if I scroll down on this main page, you can see that I also have views of earned values, changes, risks and issues, details of the resources, and any programs linked to this particular piece of work. And a program manager may have a slightly different view of the world. So if I look at this from a program manager's perspective, we can see that the marketing web portal is part of this program, but so are other pieces of work. And those other pieces of work are aggregating together to drive the status of the program itself. And I can see an overview of the changes, risks, and issues, which if I scroll down, I can have a look at the summary of all of the changes, risks, and issues, and the different projects that these have come from, and the ability to drive into any of these areas. I can look at the project, look at the risk itself, and go and view who's working on it, what the escalation procedure is, who's captured what data, who's updated it, who said what, a full audit trail of all the information around the risk or the project or the program is captured at every stage within the system. And you can see from here as well, I've got an immediate visualization that this program has got a breakdown of its costs, and actually delivery of this program, almost 50% of it is around employee costs. And I can look at, where I'm spending money on consultants or offshore resources or hardware, the full breakdown of aggregating all of the data from all of the project managers up into the program view and the program world. Now, if I use the My Links area at the top of the screen again, I can drop into the team management perspective, because we've seen that from a project manager's view, management of a piece of work, the work plan, the risk and issues, and even the ability to put resources and the cost of those resources onto the plan. But we also have people managing those teams of resources. So I've just picked out my AOS team here. It consists of 7 resources. You can see some full-time, some contractors. I can look at the overriding running cost of managing this team. I can look at the assignment loads and the capacity around this team. You know, where's the current peaks and troughs within the utilization of my resources? And I can view the individual members. Now, my team here, the AOS team, you can see is also structured where I have a hierarchy of sub-teams, and those sub-teams have people within them, 2 in each of those teams, and 3 directly reporting to the high-level AOS team. And those 7 people are the individuals that make up this team that I'm looking after and managing. And the roadmap visualization will allow me to see who's working on what, which pieces of work they're allocated to, and a high-level view of the current workload of the team, or even a breakdown into the heat map, so I can highlight individuals and the sub-teams and look at who's overutilized and who's underutilized, finding out the resources that have the most pressure placed on them at this moment in time, and maybe those that are currently on the bench and are available for allocation to work items. And like all of these visualizations within PPM, you have the ability to define, for example, in this instance here, the color settings. So when are things red, when are things amber, and when are things green? And as you see, I've actually set mine to be anything under 80% is amber and someone is sitting on the bench. Anything between 80 and 100 is green, and over 100 is red. You may have your own views and visualizations as to how that data is structured and broken down. Okay, so I'm going to stop at that point because that's just a taster into some parts of PPM. So we just looked at the portfolio, the project, a program, and the team management visualization. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks very much, Mark. Paula, have you anything else to add on that, or?
I suppose just to, I've put the Microfocus website link in the chat function if anyone wants to look at that. That was just a very short whistle-top demo. As mentioned earlier, we have some pre-recorded demos that you can access, and I have some slides on the framework agreement that will go out in the information pack. So I don't know, I think we have a little bit of time if anyone wants to ask questions now, or do you want to go to the other presentation?
We might move on. So thanks, Paula, thanks, Mark. And I'll introduce Siobhan Gaffey from OneLearning, and then we'll move to questions after that. So Siobhan, I'll hand over to you.
Hi, how are you? Good morning, everybody, and thanks for the opportunity to present to you today. I have Maria helping me out with the slides. So Maria, whenever you're ready to put them up there. Maria, still there?
They're on their way.
Okay, no problem, no problem. So the ask for my presentation, it's kind of a double job that I'm trying to do in one presentation. So one, talk about what OneLearning do, but I think more importantly, I think what you guys are interested in is the approach that we have taken to a significant project that we've been working on and still working on at the moment. So, but we're going to start off with a big reveal, and you're the first to know about this. So Maria, do the drum roll. Da, 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 da. So look, we are absolutely delighted to let you know that the new practical project management course is now available on the LMS for enrollment. So go in and enroll in sessions. They've literally been put up there yesterday evening. If there aren't enough sessions up there, as I expect there won't be, please register your interest in the course. And we'll talk a bit more around the process of how we develop our courses, which will give you insight in terms of how this course was developed. But I do have to call out both David and Kevin for working along with us and the provider in developing this course. So as I said, we're delighted to be able to reveal that to you today. So we have our foundations, and then we have this step up course, which is a 3-day long course. available as well. Okay, Maria. So it's not all downhill from there, by the way. I would hope you don't think. So I'm sure most of you are aware at this stage, but just in case you're not, OneLearning, we're responsible for all training that is common across the civil service and across all of the grades from service officer up to and including SPS members. So the context for our project was the majority of our contracts were due to expire actually in the summer of 21, but we managed under the pandemic circumstances to be able to get that push or extension till December 21, but that was it. There was no more extensions allowed under the contract. So situation, majority of OneLearning courses gone by the end of 21. So we had a significant program of work to do in terms of understanding what was it that we were going out to the market for. And really our agenda is making sure that the training that we provide to the civil service meets the current needs and the projected needs over the next 4 years. So we had to do our learning needs analysis, and I'm going to talk about that in a bit more detail. The other key partnership that we have, absolutely essential partnership, is with OGP. Obviously, any of you that have done procurement know the challenges in relation to it, but we'd already established a very good relationship with OGP over the last number of years. And with each iteration, or every time that we have gone out to procure learning and development, we have learned from the previous one. So they have worked with us to continue to improve the process in relation to this. So in tandem, or while we had to kick off the learning needs analysis, we also had the work that our project and vendor relations manager was working with OGP in terms of the big template. Again, any of you familiar with doing big procurement projects know that wonderful template takes a lot of time and work. So that was being worked at the same time as we were going out doing the learning needs analysis. So Maria, ask you to drive on. So in terms of the approach we took, so our project manager worked very closely, Peter worked very closely with all of us in the management team, and there was, you know, kind of coming back from, again, situation is majority of OneLearning courses are gone by December 21. So how long can we survive, or can our colleagues within the civil service survive without courses being available for colleagues to enroll in? And what's the risk the longer we leave it without the gap being filled? And the risk being that departments now start to go back out, start to procure their own training, etc., which is not what we wanted to happen. So we absolutely put in stretch goals for ourselves, but the starting point was, okay, realistically, how long can we go without the courses? So we started from the back end here, which is from Q2 22, we had to start getting our courses out there. So we moved back from that, going, okay, if that's to happen, then what needs to happen before that? What happens before that? And so back forward to as far as the RFT published. And obviously, prior to the RFT being published, there was a massive project that needed to happen as well. So there was a number of key components or chunks in this project, and that's the way that we managed it. So in terms of these timelines and this plan that we had, again, having OGP on board and agreeing to all of this was absolutely essential, but also our whole OneLearning team as well, understanding what this was going to mean to us, particularly in Q1 22 of this year, and the pressures that we'd be under to get courses available. So everybody needs to be on board with these timelines. Okay, Maria. So in terms of our stakeholder engagement, as I said, the key thing for us was making sure that all of our training that we put in place is not tick box training. It is training that is actually going to have an impact on the business. Key questions we ask people who attend our pilots is, was this a good use of your time? And are you taking practical things away from this course that you can put into practice straight away? So in order to get to that point, we need to engage with the business. So we've got learning and development business partners, indeed, some of you could be on this call today, in all of the departments and offices. So obviously they're key stakeholders and they know their business better than we do within their organizations and departments. They know what their business plans are, their strategies are for their organizations, etc. So they were asked to feed in to what is it that we need. From a OneLearning perspective, we reviewed what we had on offer under our Gen 1, what worked, what didn't work, what was the most popular, was there duplication in the courses? So we streamed that all out. We engaged then, as I said, with our LDBPs. We asked them to go back to their colleagues within the departments, do surveys, do kind of lunch and learn with them, again, to get their feedback and input into it. We engaged with subject matter experts. I called David and Kevin in relation to, say, the project management space. We got their input. We linked into our colleagues within our department from the innovation side. So what would they be looking for? We spoke to our Civil Service Management Board, CSSG, etc., to get input into this. We ran huge subgroups, workshops. We had representation basically from 25 bodies across the civil service as we worked on identifying what were the learning needs for the civil service. So Maria, next slide, please. And the output of all of that engagement was the identification of 6 lots that we needed to go out to procure. The ones on the right-hand side, the desktop skills, pre-retirement planning, leadership, and civil service essentials are stuff that we have in place already, or the civil service essentials was identified as something that we needed to do in-house, develop in-house. So that was separate. So the 6 circles in the center are what we identified out of that learning needs analysis. And some of these were brand new areas. The likes of finance and governance, brand new. The personal and team wellbeing was a big ramp up from what we'd ever provided before. The data innovation project management, while we provided foundations of project management, everything else in there was new. And indeed, under the communication skills and customer service and people management, a lot of new stuff that we had never done before. Okay, Maria. And that was actually, I think, 52 courses in total is what was identified from that project. In terms of, from a governance perspective, look, our key thing here, as I've said, and I'll probably say this a number of times, was making sure that what we were going to provide was going to meet the business needs. So that's that constant engagement, people feeling like they had skin in the game and had the opportunity to input was really, really essential. So we had our CSHRD, which is within the Department for Public Expenditure and Reform, where OneLearning sits, but engaging with colleagues there. Our civil service sector group, which is representation from all across the civil service, the Deeper Management Board, CSMB people subgroup, we engage with those as well. And also then kind of final part of it is then the OGP and CSSO review before the RFT is published. Okay, Maria. So some of the key points, and again, I probably have called out some of these already, but again, in terms of our requirement, and again, we've learned this from having gone out before to market, is that we need to be very, very clear in terms of what our ask was, but also in terms of managing our colleagues that inputted into the learning needs analysis. We weren't asking them to write the content. We weren't asking them to be prescriptive to the nth degree in terms of what the courses were, because actually that's what we were going out to buy or to get providers to help us with. And our focus needs to be on what are the learning outcomes. So walking away from this course, what do we want people to know? And that would also make it easier for us. And there's this age-old question, whether it's in public sector or private sector, in terms of how do you measure the impact of learning and development on a business or organization? Well, if you're not sure what it is that you're trying to fix, then how can you measure whether it has been fixed or not? So the right point of time to do that is when you're identifying your needs. So it's not about, well, we want a people management course. What is it what do you want people to know when they come out of that course? So that kept it very focused and keeping it to the bullets. This is what we need people to know, and that's what went into the tender. The subject matter engagement has been essential and continues to be essential, working with OneLearning and the providers in terms of developing the courses and also piloting the courses. And again, in relation to the practical project management, a number of you guys sat in on the pilot, provided feedback on that course to us, which was taken on board. And again, we go back, Cormac worked with the providers again to update based on the feedback that came in. Key things that we're looking for, and this sounds simple, but actually it's been a challenge. They need to be progressive and the latest thinking, balancing theory and practice, and also relatable to civil servants. So this is where we've really, really, really had to push our providers and not be, regurgitating stuff that's been around for the last 10, 20 years, etc. So that has been a challenge for us. And keeping the content is to be kept up to date throughout the lifetime of the contract. Key things also for us was making sure that all courses included ED&I as well as blended working throughout all of the courses where it makes sense. Okay, Maria. Some of the project challenges, like all projects over the last couple of years, the pandemic, obviously we were on the back foot because we were late in kicking this project off because we had a massive piece of work to do to begin with, which was to use that word, pivot our business, which was face-to-face training, now needs to become virtual and e-learning. We hadn't been doing that before, so that needed to happen, which meant the pandemic pushed things out. Also in terms of, again, something that we've all been dealing with, staff in, out, providers in, out with COVID, etc. Tender evaluations, it was massive in terms of 6 separate lots that we had to go out with. Also in relation to our tender evaluations, we have OGP, somebody from OneLearning, subject matter expert, and an L&D business partner involved in this. And this was happening during the summer, along with COVID on top of that as well. Headcount impacts, again, for any project that's going to go on for a certain duration, you're going to lose people, new people joining, and we lost our project manager along the way as well. However, by having stuff like that second slide I showed you, that, you know, those key milestones, key timelines embedded in all of our heads within OneLearning, we were able to continue working to that and be managed by this project plan now, as opposed to by a project manager. Managing contracts, obviously we had to end the old, we still had existing and new ones coming in, obviously a challenge, and it's something that is very important to us that we're doing this right. As I've already mentioned in relation to providers, pushing them to be progressive. And also along the way, again, as per any business, you've got new and emerging stuff coming on. So we had the cyber attack that happened, which meant we need to get training in place and developed that wasn't there before. The blended working that we've tried to work in tandem with what is happening in the blended framework to make sure our course is ready to go in the next 2 weeks or so. But it couldn't go before the framework was agreed, etc., etc. So these are challenges that are going to come up for everybody in terms of a project that you're managing. Some of our key learnings. So having the clear project goals and plans are absolutely essential. Alignment at management level. So absolutely in terms of the management team within OneLearning, creating that environment that you can have those robust, honest, constructive conversations, basically kill each other, you know, and doing that behind closed doors, and then being able to come out with that unified voice from a management perspective to the OneLearning team and to key stakeholders is essential. Engagement and buy-in from all of the team with continued honest communications throughout. And I know I refer to this later on about flexibility of the team members. You can only have that if people are aware as to what's going on with the project. Also, good documentation is essential. Again, in a pandemic environment where people were in and out, etc., having stuff documented made it easier for people to step into those roles if needed. Clear expectations set with trackers in place. We have a couple of longer meetings in the week, but then we also have the virtual stand-up meetings of 10-minute check-ins onto the tracker. What needs to happen? Are there any showstoppers? Do people need help? Flexibility and agility required from team members. I spoke to that already. The matching resources to outputs, peaks and troughs of workloads need to be factored in. You don't need 100 to do the project because it's up and down. So factoring that in terms of the resources that you need. Revisiting priorities on an ongoing basis. We do that constantly. Even again today, team members said about these 3 things. What are the priorities? Which way, what order do you want these to happen in? Hold providers to account, absolutely essential. We're paying them to provide a service, so we need to hold them to account. Having a circle of trust of key stakeholders, I found that extremely beneficial. And being able to test things with them. And I'm not talking about within your own team. I'm talking about across the civil service, having those key people. How will this work? How will that work? And being open to the honest feedback from them, and then being in a position to go back and relook at it. Always looking for ways to improve processes. Nobody should be precious about a process. You know, if there's ways to improve it, do that. Management of expectations of client organizations. So absolutely they're in a flap going, oh my God, all the OneLearning courses are going. We need them all ready January 1st. Not realistic that that's going to happen. It's again, engaging them, doing surveys. Which ones would you like us to prioritize? And then they're the courses that we go after developing. Communicate and engage with them all the way along. Could we do a better job in this area? I think we could. You can never do enough communications, but again, make them aware this is where we're at. So they don't fill those voids thinking, God, they're up to nothing or doing nothing over there OneLearning, but making sure that they know what we're at. And also key thing is celebrating the wins and key milestones to keep yourself and the team energized. We've achieved this. We've still got this to do, but let's celebrate those wins. Okay, I'm conscious of time. Current stage of the project. So despite that we started off in the back foot and behind, We're actually now ahead. So round 1 is ahead of schedule. The first batch of courses we identified was the 17, plus the Irish, and be 14 out of 17 and the Irish intermediate and advanced released at this stage. Round 2 is also well underway. Again, those peaks and troughs allow for that to happen. We also have our new monthly health and wellbeing webinars up and running, and this is something brand new for us. We had Dr. Maureen Gaffey in February, and we had Dr. Coleman Noctor in March, and we have Professor Ian Robertson coming up in April. And I think that the Dr. Maureen Gaffey, between the people that have attended 2 events, and also we have the recording available for a month online, there's in excess of 1,500 people have been involved. I'd say well in excess of that have gone to those events. By April, we expect by the end of April to have 56% of the courses released, again, which is well ahead of where we thought we would be. And the other thing that we're doing here, while we joke and say, I'm not doing it, I won't be here to do a generation 3, we are identifying things. Well, if you were doing it again, when we're doing it again, what would we do differently, and documenting that as we go along. So I think I'm probably out of time, but we have got, Marie, just might just flick through these. We have the learning pathways, the new courses for each of the different areas here, and I think the slides will probably go out and you'll get to look at those afterwards. So that's it from the OneLearning project.
Great stuff, Siobhan. Thank you so much, and thanks, Marie, as well. I mean, it's congratulations, I suppose, first of all, on the launch today, and it's nice. Hopefully, you'll be inundated with people trying to sign up for the courses, and it's really kind of refreshing that you're practicing what you preach in terms of following a project management approach to developing these courses, and I think it's a great addition, certainly in the project management space. We might go to the questions then. So as well as our speakers, we're joined by Kevin Dowling from the PO and the ICT branch in the Department of Defence, and he's also a member of the Action 10 group. So Kevin, I might hand over to you initially to kick the questions off, and we might go from there.
And Dave, thanks. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. Must say it's impressive to have almost 2 launches today. So thanks for the guys from OneLearning to in their big launch, and also Paula and her team in relation to getting that first public cloud software as a service solution. I know in both cases there's a lot of work and a lot of collaboration went in, which I suppose is also appropriate. I know you mentioned at the outset, Dave, about the recent award. And I have to extend a complete appreciation to a significant number of people across many public sector bodies that all contributed to the successful awards at the recent ceremonies. It's not a defence award. This one is for all you guys that were on all kinds of subgroups that participated through training subgroups, through competency subgroups. And there's people directly on the call here, and there's people tuning in as well from the webinar perspective that have been involved and have been key contributors. So it's not a defence award. This is for all of you guys. So thank you for that. I do need to acknowledge that. So just going back to the presentations, Mark, I have to say I'm very impressed with the set of dashboards, and I'm just kind of curious in terms of whether you need to have contributing project managers to be on a specific wavelength or a discipline to ensure consistency at an overall level. Is there a sense whereby you can have lighter touches in certain projects and not necessarily compromise the overall sort of sophisticated outputs that come out at the tail end? Is that possible?
Yeah, very much so. We recognise that not only do certain projects need different templates and different amounts of data, but different users, as you rightly say, also have different commitment to filling out project information and capturing project data. So PPM uses something called a project types capability, and you can have many different project types. So if you just went for a very simplistic one of saying complex and or detailed and easy as just two examples, or large and small, whatever you wanted to call them as. And you can have different levels of information, different levels of process and governance associated to both, and therefore different drivers for the RAG statuses. But I would say the key element in all of that is that there will probably be half a dozen pieces of common information, and they're the important bits, because that's the bit that really allows you to make comparisons across all of the work together.
Yeah, I think that's a very important point, Mark, and something particularly, I guess, that has been a particular issue within the defence kind of set of projects and portfolios, whereby we can have anything from, rather simple, low budget, low timeline projects right up to fairly complex, high budgeting pieces that demand their own sort of slight levels of changes in terms of the discipline. But I guess the core piece will still have to be in place in order for the overall sort of dashboards and portfolios to work, which makes a lot of sense. So thank you for that.
Kevin, could I come in just with a related question there for Mark? I mean, in terms of the nature of the project managers network, we've hundreds of members, and we've several hundred in attendance today. And the nature of the organizations, they're big and small, and the maturity levels will differ across the board. But I mean, how could an organization, if they were to envisage starting small and then maybe grow into a more sophisticated operation using this platform, how would you envisage someone kind of going on that journey?
Can I come into this one?
Yeah, Paula,
so what we are currently doing with Microfocus, so I suppose one of the key, there are several points in the RFT, it's around collaboration across the piece, and that was very, very key for us in defining the requirements in the RFT, and also driving standardization, one of the key drivers of Action 10. So what we are doing with Microfocus at the moment is working with them to develop a standard base build configuration for the application. And that'll take into account the public service handbook, and it will be, a basic build for everybody to onboard to. So sort of low maturity organizations can deploy the base build. Anybody else who has more maturity can add on top of that. But what we're looking at doing is setting a common foundation for everybody to start off with. So that will be something that we'll be working with in terms of driving maturity level and sort of standardization across the piece. So that's something we most definitely are doing, and Deeper is in investing in that. And part of that, I suppose the reason behind that is that it'll maximize the deployment speed. So once we have a base build in place, it'll be less onerous for framework clients to onboard. So we're going to cover a lot of all of that in terms of what we're doing in base build.
And related to that, again, a question is there. Can the software be used as a cross-departmental tool? And if so, is there a way of managing access rights to different projects under a broad portfolio? So the idea is having
yes, it is. Yeah, most definitely. And collaboration, as I said, is key. So I suppose, as a starting point, we just gave a whistle-top demonstration this morning. We do have a lot of pre-recorded demos in a lot of the different areas. So I would suggest people have a look at those. And if they have any questions, to come to me in addition if they want to see something else. But yes, is the answer to that.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. And I'll just stay with you guys then, if that's okay. Just a couple more questions coming in. Does the application integrate with Microsoft project? That's the first question. Second question there then is, can thresholds for risk be customized? And then can PPM integrate with other departmental portfolios? That's fine. We've addressed that one there a moment ago. So really,
it's yes to all, basically.
Great.
And again, I think there is a demo on integration particularly. So if there's any specific questions after, I suppose, having a look at that specific demo, you can come to me and I'll ask them. But yes.
Great. That's that kind of consistency across the board will be very useful as we move forward. I might go back to Siobhan and Marine OneLearning then. From the project management perspective, I suppose the role of project sponsor is important to address blockages or in implementing a project. Did you encounter any issues given the vast array of courses being sought as part of the initial tender?
I think because of the approach we took with all of that stakeholder engagement, and you know, if you were to take all feedback on board, you could potentially end up with 150 courses, and many of them very similar to each other. So you have to bring in our own experience as well in terms of courses. But I think those, as per that slide, the governance one, those stamps of approval. So bringing it back into the CSSG, which is made up of the, you know, corporate support or corporate services, ASECs and HR. Senior managers and responsible for HR, etc., and bringing it back in and road testing it with them. So we brought back in those learning paths. We put it in a way that it was, you know, because sometimes the project can get too close to it, and it's how you communicate it or present it to be able to get feedback that you can do something with. So those learning paths that we actually had in the back of the slides really helped to tell our story, and they could see the connection. And we were able to address any of their questions. So that was really how we did it, David, to be honest.
Yeah, and I think one of the most important parts of the presentation was your description of the key lessons or the key learnings. Is that something that you would kind of, is it something we've touched on in previous sessions in relation to kind of the lessons learned piece in the project, kind of how you evaluate how things went, and we're probably, or some people aren't as good as we could be, kind of using the actual practical experience of that particular project? Is that something you kind of sought to kind of identify early on in the process, or was it kind of you took?
We had to because of the scale of it. So even this week, where, you know, and it's open to all of. Now we're not perfect, by the way. So I'm sure my team members are. The OneLearning team are sitting in there going, Jesus, did we do that? But we're not perfect at it, right? But we've tried to do as much as possible and make sure that everybody can put their hand up and go, I think actually, you know, this part isn't clear. So going forward, I think we need to document this process. And, you know, putting their pitch in. So it's constantly, it's again, yeah, we can get defensive, but we battle through and go, no, listen to each other, eventually listen to each other and make those improvements. So it's that iterative process. And again, maybe we have the luxury of that because, and maybe we should be doing this for more projects, is chunking them up where possible, you know, and so by kind of doing that batch of those first 17 courses, you're able to kind of take learnings from that. And even along the way with that, do we need to change gears and not being so steadfast to say, no, the computer says no. So being open to do that throughout the process. But as I said, by chunking up the project, you can take learnings absolutely from 1 as we go into 2, and there'll be more learnings as we go in from round 2 into round 3 and onwards.
Great. That's, you know, it's a really good mantra to take the learnings with you kind of throughout the process. And again, take the good and the bad, that where you've identified a gap is really an opportunity next time round. So that's really positive. We might go back to Mark and Paula, then there's another question after coming in there. In relation to the PPM, would this tool be of greater benefit where there's a strong budget alignment to projects, often staff rather than budgets are aligned?
Yes, well, absolutely. So, you know, as we covered earlier, there's a whole financial management aspect, resource management. So it's a very rich application. As Mark said, it's in the market 20 years or so. So there's a lot of functionality there. So I would encourage people to go and have a look at the demos. We do have a demo version available as well. If anyone wants to sort of get their hands on that, they can come and ask me for the details on that, or any other questions around the framework. Please ask. But yes, is the answer.
Super. Okay, thanks, Paula. Just another question came up. Maybe it's from Mark. Someone said, "We see the Kanban view." So I don't know if that's maybe you could show your screen again, so someone could see it. If that was
of course, possible. If you can, if you could make me a presenter.
Bear with, no problem.
If I share, and this time, let's see if I can do it properly first time.
Yep, all good.
Super, we can see that. Yeah,
wonderful stuff. So I'm just going to drop across to the portfolio view. In the backlog, I mentioned that we have these radio buttons, so that was the strategy view there, and I had the list view where I could see everything listed down with all of the columns, and one of them is what we call the card view, so similar to a Kanban view. And from here, I have the ability to define my my swim lanes, my guardrails, my sort of board layout, if you like, using the board layout structure. So I've got guardrails and strategic themes. And quite simply, I then have all of the pieces of work set by all the customer engagements, those that are ERs, those that are enablers, and so on and so on. And I have the same structure to be able to define the layout of the card in terms of what I see on that one card. And then I also have the ability to click on any of these and drill into the project sitting behind them. And it also gives you a favorites view. So I can define, I don't have any favorites set for this particular individual, but I can, maybe I've structured this by program and geographical region on my board. I save that as a favorite, and then I can go in here and pick that at any point in time.
Super. Thanks very much for that. We might just take one more question on this side of the house then. Just asked, is it, can I ask if the new system will work in an Agile Scrum environment? Okay, so I think there's probably a couple of pieces worth answering on that one. We have integrations to all of the Agile tools in the marketplace. So if you wish to pull data from an Agile tool that you're already using, then you can do so. PPM then aggregates all of that information together to give you a project view of all of your aggregated sprints and story points and features and defects and all of those wonderful bits and pieces. You can also manage those entirely in PPM, but we found that most organizations, you know, run some Jira here or something else there or another tool in another area, and PPM has all of these integrations set as part of, I think on Paula's slide it was the Agile Integration capability, Agile Enterprise Integration capability.
And there is a demo on that topic as well. One
Great.
of the pre-recorded demos.
Okay, yeah. I think those demonstrations will be really useful to bring it to life even more so following on from today. So I might just kind of wrap things up then. I don't think there's any further questions. Kevin, from your side, I don't think, is there anything else?
No, Dave. Thank you very much. No, I think we're good. Yeah.
Great. Okay.
Can I just say something?
Sure,
I've been
yeah.
getting a lot of questions privately. My contact details are on the presentation pack that will go out, and I'm happy for anyone to contact me if they have any questions.
Great. Thanks for that, Paula. And we'll get the presentations up in the next couple of days, and we might just put the details up for anyone who needs to follow up. So I think there were some questions we didn't get to, but again, if there's any further questions you'd have, we can get to them on today. The panelists, and as Paula said, her email is there. So my sincere thanks to Paula, Siobhan, Mark, and Maria as well. A recording will be available shortly in the next couple of days. And I'd also like to thank the PM Network subgroup for organising the conference. So we have Eilish Keaton in Defence, Jonathan, who Jado Toole, Owen Tunstead and Deeper, who've been working tirelessly to kind of bring together today's event. So thank you all for attending, and we hope to see you at the next event on the 12th of July. So all the best and have a great day. Cheers.